everyone, welcome back to Actual English. I'm Jennifer Clyde. It's time for lesson 201 and today's topic is, well, we're talking about elections. So election campaigns or political campaigns. A political campaign or an election campaign is basically, I think it's very similar to a race. People are competing against each other. So it's like a race between candidates for elective office. There are various candidates for office, and this includes newspaper ads, for example, a lot of speeches and even signs all over the place. It's a very busy time for them because they have to compete against each other in order to get more votes. Now, what they do is, during the period of weeks right before an election, now politicians, they try very hard to persuade people to get more votes so that people vote for them and eventually so that they can be elected. So let's talk about that today. All right, let's begin with actual talk.
So one of the fondest memories I have from when I was younger was when I actually ran for class president in the 4th grade. And unfortunately, I didn't win. But I think it was just a fun experience getting to poster all over the school and having my face on it saying, vote for Michelle for president, and having to make an election speech and stuff like that. Yeah.
So did you have any election promises?
I don't remember specific ones, but I remember because I was a huge nerd in school, I promised something along the lines of everyone's going to have a lot of fun at school. This will be a great place to be.
Important issues then.
Yeah, not one of those just let's have fun.
Well, on a more serious note, it seems to be in the media all the time about having clean elections.
Right.
And I think in Korea they're always striving to be cleaner, well, on paper anyway. I was wondering, in the UK, we have two-party politics where we have two main parties sort of vying for the leadership. I was wondering, in the States, do you have the same sort of system?
Yeah, so we actually have two main political parties. But I think recently there has been kind of another party that's kind of been raising in the ranks, but it's still very a bipartisan dominant political sphere. So.
I mean, it seems to be very difficult if you have quite sort of out there views.
Yeah.
And a lot of the parties which seem sort of quite radical end up becoming quite conservative and towing the party line.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to election campaigns and stuff, people try to meet in the middle where people are going to be more accepting of them. Because if you're far to the right, to the left, whatever, there's always a majority of people are going to feel like that they can't relate to that.
Yeah, no,
person,
totally, I agree
right?
with that, yeah.
But yeah, I think election campaigns are very fun and interesting to watch.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We'll see what happens in this year.
Absolutely.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, today's topic could be a bit difficult for you all to understand, and the conversation could have been a bit difficult as well. But hold your worries. Let's take a look at it together. Today we had Eugene and Michelle helping us out, and they were talking about elections in general, as well as election campaigns and political campaigns. So here we go. First of all, Michelle says, one of the fondest memories that I have from when I was younger was when I ran for class president in the 4th grade. Now, the first sentence is quite a long sentence, but let's take a look at the key words and key phrases here. So, fondest memories. When you say one of my fondest memories or one of the fondest memories of a certain time, it means that it is a memory that you really, really treasure. It's a good memory, okay? So one of her fondest memories that she has when she was a lot younger, when in the 4th grade, was what? When she ran for class president. So this is our first pattern for today. Now, to run for something such as president, it means to work hard to be elected. You're competing against others in order to be elected as president in this case. Okay? So, she's saying that when she was in the 4th grade, she wanted to become the president. In her class, of course. So, she ran for president in the 4th grade. And unfortunately, I didn't win. So, Well, she lost. But I think it was a fun experience to have posters all over the school and have my face, she's talking about her face, on it saying, vote for Michelle for president. So now here she's talking about when she was running for president, she had posters and maybe she took photos and had those photos on the posters or printed on the posters, and those posters with her face printed on them were posted all over the school. And there was also a sign saying, vote for Michelle for president. And then she says it was also a fun experience having to make an election speech. We're talking about a speech which is basically a spoken speech, something that you would say to people, usually in front of an audience. You can give a speech, right? So she gave a speech telling her classmates or her school friends to vote for her. What she would do if she became president, the things she wouldn't do if she became president, or the things she would change if they voted for her and let her become president, okay? And then Peter says, well, so did you have any election promises? Yes, we often make promises, right? In election campaigns. People that are running for, say, for example, mayor or president, whatever it may be, they make promises, right? They say, if you vote for me, I will do this, I will do that. So they are making promises, and you can call that an election promise, okay? So did you have any election promises? And Michelle says, well, I don't remember specific ones. So she's saying, I don't remember exactly which ones I had, but I was a huge nerd in school. A nerd is just a slang or an informal way of calling a very studious child, I guess. It can be a girl or a boy. But usually, I think when we're in school, we often make fun of kids that only study, right? They're bookworms or they're straight A students. We may do that because we're jealous, but yeah, when we're a lot younger, we tend to do that. Oh, she only studies. He only studies. I'm not going to be friends with her. So she's saying, by saying that she was a nerd, meaning that she studied very hard, okay? I promised something along the lines of, everyone's going to have a lot of fun at school. And then she says, this will be a great place to be. So this is one of the promises that she made. This would be one of her election promises. And when you say along the lines of something, you're saying that it is similar in or similar to something. So she's saying she doesn't remember specifically what she promised. She doesn't remember them in detail, but she's saying, I think it was something like, everyone's going to have a lot of fun at school. So along the lines of something means similar to. We'll practice that later on, okay? Okay, let's move on. Now he says, important issues then. Well, on a more serious note, let's talk about something more serious. He says, it seems to be in the media all the time. So something seems to be in the media all the time. About what? About having clean elections, right? There are no tricks, no lies. Everything is clean. And he says, I think in Korea, they're always striving to be cleaner or on paper anyway. So we have strive here. When you say that you are striving for something or you strive to do something, it means that you work very, very hard. You are making strenuous effort toward a certain goal, to accomplish something. So he's saying in Korea, people are always, or candidates are always striving. They're working very, very hard. They're putting in a lot of effort to be cleaner. And then he says, or on paper anyway. What does this mean? Okay, they're always working very hard. They're striving to be cleaner or on paper anyway. Here he's talking about if they really cannot be clean, okay? If it really cannot be clean elections, at least they've written down everything on paper, okay? So on paper basically means to have something written down, as in a document, okay? And then he says, in the UK, we have two-party politics. And then moving on, where we have two main parties. So we're talking about what? Two main parties being bipartisan. Bipartisan means by, two. And then he says sort of vying for the leadership or for leadership. Now, vying for something means to compete. Compete or work really, really hard, especially in a competition to win, for example. You're striving in competition, for example. And then he says, in the States, do you have the same sort of system? Now, he's talking about a system related to elections. Now, yeah, Michelle says, but I think recently there has been another party. So she's perhaps talking about a slight change that's kind of been rising, increasing, or increasing in popularity in the ranks. We're talking about, for example, simply put, first place, second place, third place. So if you say that something is up there, high in the ranks, we're talking about perhaps first, second, third places compared to the 20th. Okay, so you're high up there or way down there. But it's still very like a bipartisan, dominant political sphere. So we're talking about, once again, bi, which stands for two. We're talking about two parties, bipartisan, dominant political sphere. Now, Eugene says, it seems to be very difficult if you have quite sort of out there views. Let's take a look at out there. As you see, we have O-U-T, out hyphen there. If you were to say, oh, there is a bookstore out there, there is a pool out there, we're saying that the swimming pool is outside, right? We're saying that it's out there, over there, outside. But especially when we have a hyphen between out and there, out there in this case could mean that something is strange, okay? It means strange or weird or very different, perhaps even unique. So he's saying that sometimes we have views that are quite strange or weird or very unique, very different. And a lot of parties which seem sort of quite radical end up becoming quite conservative in towing the line. Okay, so let's take a look at radical. Radical, what is a synonym for radical? I think we've gone over the word radical several times so far. We're talking about something that is extreme, especially when we're talking about an extreme change in something, okay? So you're talking about an extreme change. Now, becoming quite conservative in towing the party line. Now, this is an idiom that's spelled with a T-O-E or also as T-O-W. Toe the line, toe the line. It's pronounced exactly the same way, but toe the line basically means to follow certain rules, okay? Or to do something that is expected to be done. To do something in a way that is expected to be done, okay? To follow the steps of something, or basically to do what somebody expects you to do it, or how they expect you to do it. We'll practice that later on as well. That's another one of our patterns, okay? Moving on. Michelle says, yeah, so I think people try to meet in the middle. Let's say, for example, you and your friends, you can't seem to agree on where to go to have dinner. Your friend wants to have Indian food, and you want to have Korean food, for example, okay? Now, and you're not going to give up. Neither of you are going to give up. One strongly wants Indian, and you strongly want Korean. So what do? If you meet in the middle, you both kind of, well, say, all right, maybe we could meet in the middle, meaning, okay, you are compromising something, okay? Saying, okay, let's try to find a point where we can both agree upon something, Okay, so we're not talking about two extreme things, but something quite in the middle that's quite similar. Because if you're far to the right, to the left, or whatever, a majority, a greater number of people are going to feel like they cannot relate to that person, right? Okay, so we're talking about very different things, the huge differences. Okay, so her whole point is that people try to meet in the middle. Yeah, he says, and I totally agree with that. Meaning, I think it's a good idea to do that. Now, Michelle says, but I think election campaigns are very fun and interesting to watch. And then she says, so we'll see what happens this year. In can actually be omitted, but I've added that there or included that because that is what Michelle said. And of course, Eugene ends by saying absolutely, meaning sounds like a good idea. Okay, now later on we'll be going over the vocab words and the phrases, and we'll practice today's patterns together, so stick around. Let's take a listen one more time.
So one of the fondest memories I have from when I was younger was when I actually ran for class president in the 4th grade. And unfortunately, I didn't win. But I think it was just a fun experience getting to poster all over the school and having my face on it saying, vote for Michelle for president, and having to make an election speech and stuff like that. Yeah.
So did you have any election promises?
I don't remember specific ones, but I remember because I was a huge nerd in school, I promised something along the lines of everyone's going to have a lot of fun at school. This will be a great place to be.
Important issues then.
Yeah, not one of those just let's have fun. And
well, on a more serious note, it seems to be in the media all the time about having clean elections.
Right.
And I think in Korea they're always striving to be cleaner, well, on paper anyway. I was wondering, in the UK, we have two-party politics where we have two main parties sort of vying for the leadership. I was wondering, in the States, do you have the same sort of system?
Yeah, so we actually have two main political parties. But I think recently there has been kind of another party that's kind of been raising in the ranks, but it's still very a bipartisan dominant political sphere. So.
I mean, it seems to be very difficult if you have quite sort of out there views.
Yeah.
And a lot of the parties which seem sort of quite radical end up becoming quite conservative and towing the party line.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to election campaigns and stuff, people try to meet in the middle where people are going to be more accepting of them. Because if you're far to the right, to the left, whatever, there's always a majority of people are going to feel like that they can't relate to that
Yeah, no,
person,
totally, I agree
right?
with that, yeah.
But yeah, I think election campaigns are very fun and interesting to watch.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We'll see what happens in this year.
Absolutely.
Welcome back, everyone. It's now time for actual expressions. Are you ready? Let's first of all take a look at some vocab words from today's actual talk and then move on to our patterns. First of all, we have speech. Now, people often give a speech to an audience in front of people, and it is also called an address or a commentary. Okay? What about strive? Strive means to work very, very hard. Okay, you're putting in or making a lot of effort, what? Toward a certain goal. So you're trying very, very hard or making strenuous effort towards a certain goal. So some synonyms may be to go all out, which means to give it your all. Give your 100%. And also aim, which means to strive for something or to aim for a certain goal. Vie, we had vying, V-Y-I-N-G in today's actual talk, and the actual verb form is vie, means to compete, okay? Also to strive. Radical, we're talking about extreme or revolutionary, especially when you want to talk about a very big change or an extreme change. Often, a change in, let's say, for example, a traditional form or something that's considered to be very usual, and if an extreme change is made, you would say that it is radical. Okay, radical, just remember it's extreme. Now let's move on to our first pattern for today. Run for something. Now keep in mind, especially when you're talking about elections, if somebody says that somebody is running for something, they are not actually running. Okay, they're trying very hard to be elected. So run for something means to try to be elected as something. Here's a sentence. Who do you think will run for president in the coming election? In this case, it's run for president. Okay, so this person is asking, who do you think will try to be elected as president in the coming election? Meaning in the next election. Got it? Okay, let's move on. Along the lines of something or along those lines. They mean the same thing. We're talking about something being similar. Okay, let's take a look at a sentence to help you understand. Okay, I think my point is very much along the lines of your suggestion. So let's see, this person is saying my point is very much along the lines of, almost equal to your suggestion. Is it easier for you to understand? So simply put, this person is saying, I think my point, what I'm trying to say, is similar to your suggestion. Okay? Let's try the sentence together. I think my point is very much along the lines of your suggestion. Simply put, once again, I think my point is very similar to your suggestion. Okay, here we have one more. I can't remember exactly how she put it or how she said it or which words she used, but it was something along those lines. Okay, now can you figure out what this person is trying to say? This person is saying, I can't remember how she put it. I can't remember exactly what words she used or which words she used, but I think it was something like that. I think it was something along those lines. Okay, let's move on. Toe, T-O-E, or toe, T-O-W, the line. Toe the line, toe the line. We're talking about following orders or doing things as expected. Here's a sentence. I didn't like the manager's plan. No, I didn't like it, but I decided to just toe the line. So this person is saying, well, I wasn't happy with the manager's plan. I didn't like the plan, but I just followed it. I just followed it, or I just did as I was expected to. Okay? So I hope you have a better understanding of all these patterns and today's vocab words. Job well done.